Hi everyone. I have read your annotated bibliographies as well as your papers that were on Power and posted feedback in the rubric and some feedback on your paper. So make sure you take the time to read that feedback that's been provided to you. The general things I want to talk with you about our APA content. From a writing style, from an approach to writing, you guys are doing a good job. The details of APA, we have several things that there's some general struggles with. First, I want to remind you that use of level headings throughout your submitted paper is an expectation for graduate level writing. It is more than putting a heading on the paper or a title on page 2. You need to be using level 1 and level 2 headings at a minimum on most of your papers. Your last paper, which is more detailed, is your Christian paper. That paper is going to be much more involved. So that paper is going to have level 1, 2, and 3 in it. Unless you're doing a full research paper like you'll do in 620 when you get there to do your integrative literature review, that paper is going to be more research oriented and likely to have level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Your approach to how you use the levels and how frequently you use them is really kind of up to you. What you should know is that they follow sequential order. So if you use a level 1 and you want to move to a next level, it's going to be a level 2. And level 3s go under level 2s. You're never going to use a level 1 and a level 3 without a level 2. Spend some time in your APA manual, folks. It is so important that you get the concept of level headings early on in your writing so that you can start really practicing those skills before you get into your practicum courses and things get really challenging. So headings are important. I want to remind you that volume and issues are standard components of an APA reference for articles. There is always going to be a volume. There may or may not be an issue depending on how large the journal is. Make sure you're looking for them. You may have to actually go in to the beginning part of a journal in the database to find out what the issue is. But make sure you're making those efforts to do that. Every article that you are pulling needs to have a DOI. If it does not have a DOI, the first thing to ask is, are you using an article that is scholarly in nature? Is it a peer-reviewed article? Is it a research article that is coming from a reputable journal? Not every journal will use a DOI system. Some of the international journals, especially if they're small journals, aren't going to use it. But it is the first clue to just make sure that you really do have a research article that is scholarly in nature. If you're sure that it comes from a peer-reviewed journal, it's scholarly in nature, it's in the last 5 years, there is really no DOI, you're going to use the URL that you locate, that you use to locate the article in the databases within the library system. Please do not copy and paste the entire 789 line of the URL. You can drop it in, but delete everything back up to where the search the search tool begins. So if you got it from Cochrane or EBSCO, back it up to where it's almost about a line and a half of URL. Don't put the entire complex URL in there. So just make sure that you are putting a DOI, or if you're absolutely sure that it's a scholarly source and there isn't a DOI, that you're putting in a URL. It's not an optional piece. It has to be in there. So it's one or the other. The last thing I want to talk to you about, and this was a theme for many of you in your annotated bibliographies, is defining what a scholarly article or scholarly resource would be. A scholarly resource is going to come from, as I just stated, a peer-reviewed recent journal, last 5 years, article or journal that is research-oriented. When you find commentaries or editorials or opinions from authors that are published, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value, but it is not considered a scholarly source. Scholarly sources are sources that reference research, that do an integrative literature review, that do a full summary of concepts, a synthesis of concepts. It is not one or two article authors who get together and write an opinion piece. One of the clues to know this is how long is it? Many editorials and commentaries are 1 to 2, 3 pages most. Sometimes if they're doing a quick snapshot of an overview of a concept, let's say servanthood, they may pull 3 or 4 articles and say, well, this is what they say, but this is what we think. That's a commentary. These do not have enough rigor to be used as evidence in a professional paper. So I'm sure that throughout your academic program, you've used editorials and commentaries and opinion pieces as part of supporting and substantiating your work. Folks, there's times that it's okay to use these lighter sources, a reflection article, a discussion board. Those are things that I kind of let it slide because these are really your opinion, and having an expert match your opinion, I think, is okay. Your final paper, your strategic planning paper, your Christian paper that's at the end of it, at the end of the course, the Christian Nurse Leadership paper, all of those are considered more rigorous papers. They're research oriented. You know that because you did an annotated bibliography for it. You do not want to use opinions, editorials, or commentaries to substantiate your work in a scholarly paper. So be very careful when you're picking and choosing your references that you're using the level of rigor that's appropriate for the type of paper you are writing. And if you're in doubt, contact the librarians and ask them their opinion. These kinds of things, the more you get to know your sources, the more comfortable you get at critically analyzing references, you'll get more comfortable with this. But I do want to heighten your awareness in this, that there are 2 very different types of articles, and just because you pull it from a peer-reviewed scholarly journal doesn't mean that what's in your hands is a scholarly source. You have to take one more look at it to make sure that it's not an editorial or a commentary, that it's actually a research-based article. That's what we're looking for when we're looking for scholarly sources. Okay, that's it for this week. You guys did a great job. Hang on, one thing I do want to mention. In your power paper, you guys did a really good job with this. And power can be a little unwielding when we think about it from a Christian perspective. Your classmate Sarah did a really nice job kind of wrapping up the concept of how we should approach power from a Christian perspective. Sarah wrote that in knowing, believing, and in living Christ's calling, it is expected that as a product of his hands, I will honor, respect, and care for those I serve. In direct patient care, I will use my abilities to advocate and promote health and well-being. As a nurse manager, I will use my abilities to advocate and promote my staff nurses so they can care for the patients with the standards that have been placed on me. I will use my power and knowledge to stand up for political offices within an organization or within our government to advocate on behalf of nurses and or patients' direct goals. I vow never to use power for personal gain and will honor the calling and expectations of my Father to promote goodness on this earth. My hope is that fellow nurses and nurse managers, both Christian and not, promote the same use of their power so that the sick and the weary receive the care they deserve. I think Sarah did a beautiful job wrapping up the key concepts of what it means to be a Christian nurse leader in power and where ultimately our power comes from, and that's from our Heavenly Father. And we have to have judicious use of that power and be using that power for the benefit of others, not to serve ourselves. And I think there's a difference, and several of you talked about how the secular view of power is self-promotion and the Christian view of power is the promotion of others. So I really appreciate the thoughtfulness in that approach. Okay, so well done in that assignment. Next week, you're going to be doing a paper on the influence of teams. You're going to be synthesizing what you are reading in your textbooks this week. I want to remind you that to synthesize does not mean to summarize. You're going to tell me what you read and how that applies to your current practice. When you're asked to cover some key concepts, think about 5 or 6 key concepts that you're getting from your reading and then apply those to your current practice. So that looks like you're going to discuss what the book says and then say, this is how I see this in my practice. Tie it all together and do it in a meaningful way. And please include some level headings to organize your writing. This paper can get a little unwieldy if you don't properly organize it. Okay, I'm going to let you go. If you have questions or concerns, know that I'm here. Touch base as the week goes on. I know that I have I missed you yesterday. Today is Wednesday, so I did not get to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. So I hope wherever you were yesterday that you were feeling loved, and that you were enjoying some sort of blessing yesterday. Know that in your world that you are, I know you know this, that your Heavenly Father loves you, that Liberty University loves you, and that I love you. I'm praying for you, and I want your success in this course. So use your resources and touch base if I can support that in any way. Have a great week. Take care.